So there's something that women whisper about privately, joke about publicly, and often feel deeply ashamed of underneath. Desire, intimacy, libido, exhaustion, and why so many women in midlife suddenly feel disconnected from themselves. Because it's a reality. But the interesting part is that it might not just be your desire that has disappeared. It might be that your nervous system has been running so hard for so long since 20 years ago that it doesn't know what to do. So, welcome back to Empower Your Menopause, the podcast all about health, happiness, and hormones for women over 40. I'm Coach Julie.
And I'm Coach James.
Today, we have a really special guest who has spent decades helping women untangle all of those feelings so that you can start finding that desire again and feel more like yourself.
Yeah, so Julie Merriman is a woman after my own heart because she's got more letters after her name than I care to imagine. But let's take it from a roll call then. She's a counsellor, she's an educator, she's a podcaster, she's an author, she's a speaker, and she's a clinician with almost 30 years experience helping women stop disappearing into everyone else's needs. Her work's especially for women who have spent years being the strong one, the reliable one, the self-sacrificing one, and who are now realising that constantly holding everything together can come at a cost. She's the creator of Soul Joy, author of In Pursuit of Soul Joy, and best book title ever, Are We Going to Have Sex or What? And also the voice behind the top 100 motivational podcast, Compassion Fatigue Cure, and she also hosts the podcast Sexy After 50. Through her work, she helps women understand what's happening in their bodies and nerve systems when burnout, shutdown, low desire and emotional exhaustion take over. She blends clinical knowledge with practical, body-based tools to help women feel safer, more present and more connected with themselves again. She's based all the way over in the good old US of A at her Texas ranch, and she works with high-achieving women who are tired of feeling invisible, numb or stuck in survival mode. Her message is simple. Life after 50 isn't about fading quietly into the background. It's about taking yourself seriously again with a bit more fire, honesty, and absolutely no interest in playing small. Now, Julie from Fabulous Beyond 40 and I have just wrapped up our conversation with Julie Merriman. Believe me, I was confused as heck trying to hold this podcast together. And it is a fascinating chat. So you're going to love this one. Without further ado, let's bring in Julie Merriman. Julie, we've just told everybody who you are and what you do, but why don't you put it in your own words? Tell us a little bit, please, about how you got into your journey, where it started, and what made you want to work with women 40, 50 and above, and why you advocate for them so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And it's great to be here with y'all. I've been a clinician and a professor in the mental health field for 30 something years. And so as I aged, the women I worked with aged as well. And I saw around 45, I had a real crash and burn. My first book, In Pursuit of Soul Joy, is my journey through burnout. And also as professor, it's publish or perish, right? So my area of research has always been burnout and compassion fatigue. And as I researched that, I realized how eminently important the nervous system is as we're as we're looking at those constructs. And the women that kept coming to me in my practice as they aged kept talking about this. Just they kept saying my life force feels like it's gone. I don't know what's happening to me, and that got me very curious. And that's my second book. Are we gonna have sex or what? That's really the journey through midlife, being able to reclaim, your desire and your body, and just really live fully alive. So really, it's been a work of living through it and helping all my lovely clients come through it as well. And it's interesting. I teach graduate students over here in the States. A lot of my students come into my program to become counselors, and they're older, and I even saw it in my students. So I think it's a really important thing to help women learn how to get embodied.
So I want to dive into the juicy stuff right away, because that's kind of how I roll. And I would love to know, like, when you go into menopause, and a lot of times libido just seems to evaporate. And, can we talk about maybe your libido didn't die? Maybe there's something else involved in that whole process, because I think a lot of women are frustrated and confused, and so are their partners.
Oh, So very true. I'm 63 and I've been in my marriage close to 40 years. So God love my husband. We have lived through this together and I've seen this with my clients as well. And yes, the medical profession and we love our doctors, but so often they will tell you, you're just old, just deal with it. And here's a hormone, go deal with it. And it's so much more
Yeah.
than hormones. Hormones are important. I mean, don't get me wrong. I take mine every day. Just took them before I came and sat down in here, actually. But it's so much more than that. The women I work with tend to be kind of high achieving gals, but you don't have to be a high achieving gal to impact this. Your libido is not gone. I'm here. I'm living it. I mean, I get personal, but I mean, I have found my orgasms to get better as I got older. You just have to, they're deeper, they're more spiritual than they were at 20. Libido is still there. But what's happened, we've been in survival mode for so long, fight or flight. I'm talking polyvagal system, but I'm also a very somatic therapist and we use chakras. I use chakra psychology as well. As a neuroscientist, I'm going to talk about the polyvagal system. As a yoga instructor, which I am, I got yoga goats right out there. Um, I'm going to talk about chakras. It's the same thing, except we're using different terminology. Your vagal nerve runs right through your chakras. So it's for me, as I'm working with my ladies, it gives more of a concrete kind of idea than just looking at all the spaghetti on a on a screen when you're looking at a vagal, the vagal system. Not all of us have degrees in anatomy and physiology.
Right.
So, what happens, these ladies, we've lived for 20, 30 years just going, 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 and your nervous system is just braced and in fight or flight, or have gone down to dorsal vagal where you're numbing and you're just disconnected. You're dissociated from your body. And the very first thing that's going to happen, because our brain is very selfish with energy, and the very first thing that's going to happen, that frontal cortex doesn't function as well. The, the nervous system says this chick is just trying to survive. Pleasure and desire is coming offline. And we wonder why we're not feeling libido, why we're not feeling desire. Because we've told our body we are just trying to survive here. So we really have to go through a defrosting. If you remember those old refrigerators where you had to open the door, and defrost, um, that really has to happen to help her get that desire back online.
So, what would it look like in real life if a woman wanted to protect her nervous system?
So to protect that nervous system, it takes so much work. I mean, it's really some deep work. You think, oh, I can just say no and things are fine, but it's so much more. We have to learn first and foremost to get embodied. The gals I start working with, and I was guilty of it myself in my first crash and burn, we become floating heads of competence. So we think we can think our way through everything and, fix it. Um, but we can't. This is something, the issues are in the tissues. You have got to go into your body and work through things. So the very first thing I work on with my ladies is teaching them how to get into their body. And we start with full body scans, scanning chakras and trying to realize, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Where in your body are you feeling that? And that might take months to just get her trained to get back into her body because it's that root chakra. If you don't feel safe in your body, you're not going to get into your body. And if you are not balanced, there's no way desire is going to show up for you because that's a very vulnerable place to be. And we've got to feel safe in our body. So it takes baby steps, right? We don't blow up the system. We start with baby steps so that she can at least learn that safety piece.
For sure. Well, blowing up the system is how we got there in the first place, right? Not that I would know anything about that, of course.
I tell you, I'm gifted with that for myself. I really had to work on that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And one other question on this particular topic, and that's, how can women tell the difference because we're not in tune with our bodies very well? How can we tell the difference between what's a hormonal change and what's a nervous system issue? Or is there a way to even understand those as separate things? Because I know it all works together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely does. And when we hit midlife, that wonderful estrogen that helped, I mean, it's important for reproduction and those kinds of things, but it also functions in our brain. It helps us have a lot of tolerance. I think that's why we're able to raise children, and do all the things that we do. And we hit midlife and the tolerance kind of goes. You're like, why am I doing this? what
Yeah.
what have I done to myself? And we have taught ourselves to stay in the stress cycle, never letting it complete, and we're living on this cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol, and wondering why we feel like hell, And I think it's very muddled together.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm here to tell you, it's good news. We can get this worked out, and really, our brain is really poised for some wonderful things in midlife where we can reframe and really excavate our identity and look at what we want those next years to look like, unlike we've ever been able to do before.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's come on to a little to the fix in a little bit. I want to delve into this idea. You mentioned that you work mainly with high achieving women, and as a man looking in, I don't know any women above the age of 40 who aren't high achievers, right? Irrespective of what's happening in their career, they tend to be juggling family, parents, their own parents who are getting older. They're working. They're there for their friends. They're there every time the PTA comes calling. They're rushing to help. They won't say no to anything. So I almost don't see any woman who I think doesn't seem to be overachieving and juggling a million balls at the same time. But is there something, do you think, specific about high achieving career women that adds on an extra layer on top of all that, or is it just another function of womanhood?
That's a good question. And you're absolutely right. Women have been conditioned from very early in life to appease and please and swallow their truth to keep the peace and overfunction. We're living way past capacity by doing all the things you're talking about. And then you bring in a woman who's trained to be a doctor or a lawyer or a counselor or a PhD professor. You add in that layer of what they went through in school, because I'm telling you, that's not a fun that's a ringer in itself just to get through grad school and all the threats. And then you have to do internships. You're having to prove yourself. So it's not just high achieving women. You're right. It's all women. We have learned to tie our worth to our production, to what we do, instead of just being valuable for being here. I work with women, y'all, and I will give her an assignment, just color for 10 minutes on Saturday. That's all I want you to do this week. And she comes back and she's like, I couldn't do it. I was going to crawl out of my skin. Busy becomes a drug. We get great dopamine hits from all the busy and being rewarded for, oh, you worked 14 hours this week and took on 5 new clients where you had no capacity, and you're rewarded for it, and yes, you factor in the parents that now, I mean, and there's some grief that goes in there that we have to work through, and perhaps some resentment, because when we don't get our needs met, resentment is a very natural and sacred emotion that's going to come up. And so many women feel so guilty if they feel resentful about something. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Yeah, any emotion that comes up is a right emotion. And you need to explore that and really get embodied and see what it's trying to tell you. But it's with these overachieving women, the extra layer, and especially as you get into later, later profession. Like right now, I'm a department chair at a university, and I'm responsible for everything counseling. Going through this, we're going through an accreditation visit. Here I'm preaching this stuff, and I was telling my husband last night, my God, I can't even sleep. I'm so wound up. I'm in fight or flight right now. What happens as we get better in our career, we get the harder cases. We get more responsibility. we're the ones that train the new people coming in. So that adds another layer of stress, if you will.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about all this stuff that's going on and then wonder why there's a disconnection from pleasure. And, really the question is, where do you even find time for the pleasure in the first place?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday morning my husband was feeling a bit frisky, and I was like, "You're crazy, man. I got way too much to do right now, you know." And then I had to go back and go, "I'm so sorry. We'll make some time here." But that's, I mean, for women, desire just feels like one more thing on their to-do list. How I If you talk to women, they will tell you about the we love our partners. Obligatory sex comes in very frequently. Faking an orgasm comes in very frequently because we love the partner. Okay, we'll have the sex and it's over. Oh, he or she needs to hear this. So fake an orgasm. So we're teaching our body not to be safe. We don't mean to, but over years we've confused. There's some confusion there. What does desire even look like these days?
I was just thinking, when we look at the two things that we talked about so far, we think we can run businesses. Women are professors and CEOs and department chairs, and we remember everybody's appointments and we call them to remind them, and because they'll forget. We do our meal prep and we answer, emails, and while we're waiting for the light to change. And then we get home and we wonder why we're suddenly not this sex goddess at 9:45 p.m. when there's no energy left, right? And like you say, we love our partners, but I think that desire isn't something we can just flip on like a light switch. So what, one of the things that I think comes up is we become roommates, and sometimes instead of partners and lovers and all of the other things that we're meant to be together. So how do we know, like, what are some of the warning signs that we might be slipping into the roommate territory, as it were?
Yeah, and that's really insidious. I've done a lot of marriage counseling in my career, and worked with couples who are waking up going, I don't even like him anymore. I don't even like her anymore. When did this happen? It's very insidious. We stay so busy, we don't necessarily take care of ourselves. We're so busy giving to others, and we, there's a myth that we can't pour from an empty cup. I think that's BS. We do it all the time, and we become that empty cup. And when we're that empty cup, there's not much left to nurture a relationship or nurture that marriage in the manner that it needs to be nurtured. And then I've worked with a lot of folks where resentment, we swallow our truth, keep the peace, blah, 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 or those needs aren't getting met, and couples, the partners start resenting each other and don't work through that resentment. Like I said, it's a very sacred emotion if we get in there and really listen to it. But if we don't, it can build cement around our heart with our marriage, with our partners. So that roommate marriage, and it's more, sadly, it's more common than not, even with couples have just moved out of the bedroom together and they're just tolerating each other, which sends, if the kids are still home, that really sends which is a whole other gig.
Yeah.
But the kids are watching this and learning about what marriage looks like. And a lot of that, well, that's your nervous system so worn out that it can't, to try and think about maintaining a marriage just feels like one more thing on the to-do list. And I'm overwhelmed. I can't even think about having the energy to do that. And it's a very, it's a very fixable thing. Good old Texas. I'm in Texas. We fix things out here. So, it's a very fixable thing if you take the time to get nervous systems regulated, which is, his and hers, or however we're coupled, getting both nervous systems regulated.
Mm-hmm.
That co-regulation is eminently necessary for desire to come back online. Getting out of sympathetic and out of dorsal vagal and into ventral where that's our that's our connected. We're able to connect. That's our social place. That's where desire lives. Curiosity. Trying to get couples to get curiosity back online.
Yeah.
And one thing about desire, I just want to say right quick, so many women don't realize only about 10% to 15% of women, I don't care if you're 20 or 65, experience spontaneous desire. We're not going to wake up horny. For women, that just doesn't happen. It's very important for women to understand only about 10 to 15% of women have spontaneous desire, where you just wake up wanting it. 85 to 90% of us, it's contextual, it's responsive desire. And as we get older, that's going to take a little longer. And also, that's something to think about as you're trying to recover from that roommate situation. You don't want the other partner to feel hurt. It's nothing personal. It's just, responsive desire might look different as we get older.
This is really interesting, isn't it? I think because that 85-90% stat that you just gave us, a lot of men hear low libido and they assume that that's rejection, and that might be coming at this time of life because all the things that we've talked about, all that busyness, wearing busyness as a badge of honor, right? So how can a man make that easier for his wife, or what can he do to help change that around? What do we need to understand as guys that will help you feel more comfortable when it comes to initiating sex?
Yeah, such a good question. And it's that safety factor. Not pressuring her. Please never schedule sex. That's just one more thing on your to-do list that it feels like a lot of pressure. And it's really important to have these conversations with clothes on at the kitchen table, or out on the back porch, to keep that bedroom sacred and to keep shame and blame out of the game, because it's not about anyone doing anything wrong. It's about helping both nervous systems feel safe and regulated, so that desire can even present itself. So, I mean, I lucked out with my hubby. He, like I said, yesterday morning, and I am in the midst of this site visit stuff that is a special kind of hell, and he realizes that, and he was like, "It's okay, baby," and he just kind of rubbed my neck. He said, "I don't want anything. I'm just going to rub your neck. I just love you and want to connect with you." I think those are very important messages, that I don't expect anything. In fact, with couples, when we're trying to help get things back online, I'll give assignments that genitals and sex are off the table for this next month. We're just going to work on connection, touching, getting both of you back re-embodied, where you sit on the sofa and maybe just hold hands and feel the warmth of the hand, feel where the calluses are, just touch, just trying to get that root chakra and that sacral chakra balanced, because men have those same chakras, balanced, so that eventually we can get to back to where genitals come back online. They're online, but think about it. If a woman is in fight or flight for so many years, or dorsal vagal, when she's braced, just getting ready for things, that pelvic floor is braced. And then we tell her to go Kegel, go do Kegels. And she's like, hell, I've been Kegling for it. And what's happened, blood flow to your genitals are cut off. Plus, that's your root chakra. Everything's just braced. So you really have to work on relaxing and, bringing that into the equation when it comes to connecting with your partner. Those mirror neurons are really important when you're co-regulating, and they'll come into play, and they can help with safety very much.
Okay, here's an interesting question for you, Julie. Are there times where, or are there relationships where it's okay for a couple to just decide, do you know what, we aren't going to bother with it anymore. We are just going to live a co-parenting, cohabiting relationship, and sex is just off the table for both of us. Is that okay, or should it still be an integral part of a couple's relationship?
Well, yeah, I'm trained in a therapy called discernment counseling, and it's where a couple, because generally when they hit marriage counseling, it's like I'm done. I just want to prove I tried. I'm out, I'm out the door. So in
Yeah.
discernment counseling, it's I think it's 4 weeks, and it's at the end of the 4 weeks, the goal is you either decide to live in this special kind of hell that you made for each other, and that's fine, man. That's up to you. That's your life, or you choose to actually do some marriage counseling, or you choose to go find a divorce lawyer. I mean, that's really trying to help them get to the nuts and bolts. And I can't tell you how many people choose to just stay in the situation where they're just going to be roommates,
Mhm.
and they don't want to try to work on having a sexual life again, and they want to live with that resentment. They don't want to work past it, and we're free. I mean, we have free will, right? We get to make that
Sure.
choice. So I can't judge if it's right or wrong. They get to make that choice for themselves.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think that would be awful. Um, Esther Perel, and I'm sure y'all have heard of her. She's a great sex therapist. She has a great video that I will refer my couples to. And what she says, you know, maybe it was an affair, maybe there was some kind of break, some kind of rupture in the relationship that can look betrayal look is far more than just an affair, but there's a betrayal in the relationship. And she says, okay, that marriage is over. We're just going to put that one to bed. But this new marriage, from here forward, you can create a new marriage that has all the yumminess that you want and leave that in the dirt. And that that's helped quite a few of couples I've worked with to kind of reframe things. Yeah, we can leave that resentment. We can kind of work through whatever we need to work through there and start this fresh chapter, this exciting chapter together. And midlife gives us that opportunity. We can start this fresh chapter.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to start again, right? Or to reinvent oneself for both men and women, I'd say. So we've talked a lot, and we've moved around this idea of, this is a long, deep-seated challenge for some people, isn't it? You said that for some people, you've been working with them for months and months and months before they can start to open up.
Yeah.
But let's just pull it into a couple of quick fire practical questions then. So if you had to give one thing a woman could do today to reconnect with herself, what would it be? What kind of exercise would you give her?
The very first thing I'm going to tell her to do is a full body scan. Get trained in that, and you just from your head, throat, chest. You're scanning the chakras, and be curious about whatever physical sensations might come up. I promise, our body is very wise and will tell you things if you get quiet and curious. We so often judge, and we're very mean to ourselves. So self compassion is another very important component. Kristen Neff, Dr. Neff out at the University of Texas, she has done research on self compassion. Great book, a great website. If someone's like, what the hell is self compassion? You can figure that out pretty quick off that website. But approaching that body scan with self compassion and curiosity can be a game changer, complete game changer.
What's one thing that partners should know about midlife women in their relationship?
I would just invite, well, curiosity. I mean, I think that's a cure all for a lot of things. Bringing curiosity into the relationship, but also knowing that both of us have changed. Yeah, we've had illness. I mean, I've had breast cancer. My husband's had brain cancer. I mean, life has changed. Our kids are grown. Our bodies have changed. Where in the 20s, you can pop off some orgasms pretty quick and woohoo, here we go. In your 50s, 60s, you need to approach things differently with allowing time and space and take expectations off the table. Maybe we just connect and just feel good holding hands. Just allowing change, I think, is very important. Because I think we approach things with the same expectations that we had maybe in our 20s and 30s. And that's just not going to happen.
No. Well, and, intimacy is very different from sex. And I think for some people, they don't really see a difference there.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's absolutely. And when intimacy is gone, you're not intimacy is very important, and that's where that connection, that's what I'm trying to say, the connection that happens with intimacy, be it just we're co-regulated and we can sit and look in each other's eyes for a few moments. We have a ritual each morning. We drink coffee together. I mean, it's very important to stay connected and to share each other's lives. When I see those roommate marriages, man, they're not even sharing lives. They are doing different bank accounts, different vacations, different, don't even ride in the car together to their kids' graduation. It's important, that connection, all those little things. Um, Especially long-term relationships, you have such history you've shared with each other. It's um, honoring that.
Last question for you, Julie, before we let you go. What's the biggest myth about libido after 40, would you say?
That it's gone. um, it's there. She has not died. We've just lost track of her because we've been so busy and so braced. Our nervous system has said, "Fine, Chicky Poo, we're going to put her over here." You just have to excavate her and make space in your life again by getting that nervous system regulated. Um, in that, I wish I'd known more about that when I was raising kids. You know, my kids are in their 40s, but I think we just show up so different when we're regulated and have think about it, y'all. When you're upset, can you really listen to others and be connected to others? I mean, we just kind of shut down. That's not available. And that's what's happened to that libido. She's still there. She's just sitting over in the corner waiting for the invitation to come back online.
Amazing. Well, this has been really helpful and very enlightening, and I know that our listeners are going to love it because this is something I think that's a really important piece of aging and relationships and just rediscovering ourselves and reinventing ourselves in this phase of life. So where can people find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Um, Probably my website. I've got 2 podcasts. Each one goes with each one of my books, and everything's linked on my podcast, my books, and I have a radiance, a somatic radiance intensive I do with ladies. It's a 7-day thing, but all of that good stuff is on my website.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure to put all of that information down in the show notes. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a great conversation, and we definitely hope that we can connect again later in the future. Is there anything you would like to say before we sign off?
Just you're enough and you're worth the effort. It's going to get messy before it gets better, but that's okay.
All right. So if this conversation hits home for you, please share it with another woman who needs to hear it because trust us, she probably does. This has been James and Julie from Fabulous Beyond 40. We'll see you again next week at our next podcast. In the meantime, stay strong and stay fabulous.